Hi, this is Dr. Karen Wilson Starks, your host for the Voice of Leadership, the show for business executives and global corporations who appreciate a principled biblical lens on leadership, featuring the song Consuming Fire by gospel jazz saxophonist Ron McMillan. You are listening to our Resource Renewal Series featuring shows for times such as these. Mommy, why do I have to clean up my room? Mommy, why do I have to eat my green vegetables? Daddy, why can't I hit my sister? She hit me first. Well, I'm sure all of you who are parents at some point have heard these questions from your children. And a lot of times as parents, you have the prerogative to say, because I said so. However, because I said so is probably not the most powerful answer, even though sometimes maybe your child is not ready for a more sophisticated answer for the complicated question that they're asking, and you may not have the words to articulate a reasonable why. However, if you take the time to give them a real why to their question, it becomes a teachable moment. Your child then understands more and they also learn, and it prepares them for life. You could also expand their view of how the world works by really answering a why, or help them understand the importance of what you are saying or what you are asking them to do. So you might say, well, what does this have to do with the workplace? Well, in the workplace, managers and bosses often omit the answer to the why question and provide only the what or the how of business. And I would say this is a missed opportunity for more engaged workers who catch the fire, the passion, and the vision for the future. Answering why connects the worker to the purpose, the bigger meaning for the work. Answering the why creates momentum, energy, enthusiasm. And the bottom line is your workforce will have no fire without the why. It's really important to understand and also articulate why your company does its work. And by the way, the answer is not for profitability. That's an outcome of getting the why right. However, it alone is not the why. If your why is only to make money, then you'll end up inadvertently focusing on the wrong actions and compromise both the why and the results. Just as a picture or as an example, sometimes I often talk about the why in terms of the bricklayer. And let's say it's the bricklayer's vision. You're going to walk past 3 different bricklayers. The first bricklayer, you ask him, what is he doing? And he says, oh, I'm laying a bunch of bricks. You walk by the second bricklayer and he says, I'm making a building. And you go by the third bricklayer and you ask him what he's doing. And he says, I'm building a beautiful cathedral for the service of God. Now, those are 3 different answers. They're all doing the same work. However, the third person not only is telling you what they're doing, they're telling you a little bit about the why in the sense of building a beautiful cathedral for the service of God. This person has greater inspiration for what they're doing because they know what the bricks are for and they know a purpose that it's going to be serving later. The second person is making a building, so they at least know that they're building something. However, there's no sense of what the building is or what it's for. So there's a missed opportunity for that bricklayer to really connect to the deeper meaning and purpose. And the first bricklayer is laying a bunch of bricks. And if you think about bricklaying, that can be backbreaking and hard work. So this person is only in tune with the hard work aspect of it. So they're more likely to get exhausted, more likely to get tired, possibly even to get bored in the process of doing that work and might even quit on the job. Whereas the person who understands the deeper meaning and purpose that they're building this cathedral, they're going to have staying power, they're going to have more energy and more motivation to keep at the job. So when you think about your business, you want to answer the question of why for your workers. If you're a home building company, it's like, why are we building these homes? What's unique or different about us? Perhaps you're bringing the dreams and visions to life that people have imagined in their minds so that they're living in an optimal space. Maybe you own a dry cleaning enterprise, and what you're doing is you're creating beautiful, clean clothes for people living life in all its dimensions. Or maybe you're a furniture maker and you're preserving and celebrating the best of artistry, beauty, and functionality in classic Renaissance styles. I don't know how you would articulate it or what you would say, but the point is have something to say. Maybe you're in the medical field and you're in a hospital for children that's all about curing cancer. So you're curing cancer so children live full lives into adulthood. You want to give your people something that they want to be part of and something they can be proud to be part of. This is actually a great conversation as a call to excellence. Now, I want to go back to our little child at the beginning of this podcast. Little Johnny, I'm going to call him, but he had all of these why questions for mommy and one for daddy. You can practice on the children in your life, or even our hypothetical little Johnny, to start by figuring out how you would inspire them. How would you answer the why question? So, when little Johnny says, why do I have to clean up my room? There are some reasons. Maybe it's to keep bugs away, so it's easier to find things. Maybe so that it's comfortable, so that when guests come to visit, you're already ready and don't have to do a lot of work. I don't know. There, you think about it. What would you say? Or why do I have to eat my green vegetables? Oh, so you can get your vitamins, so you can have strength. And if you have more strength and you have your vitamins, you can do more fun things. Well, little Johnny might like doing more fun things. Well, why can't I hit my sister? And especially if she hit me first. Well, Dad might say your sister is younger than you and you could hurt her because you don't know your own strength. And civilized people learn to settle conflicts in better ways. We can't just go around hitting people when we're not happy with something. When you're an adult, if you do that, you might get charged with assault, with battery, and you'll be thrown in jail. So, whatever, you help the child to understand that there is a reason for doing what you're asking them to do. For your homework in your organization, first bring together your executive team. Talk about the why for your business. Agree on what that might sound like, what that might look like as a start, and then share what you've come up with others in the organization and allow them to also refine and improve on what you started to articulate the why for your business. And for some additional inspiration, I strongly recommend a TED Talk series by Simon Sinek that's called The Golden Circle. And you can find that online, and he does an excellent job of talking about the why and how come that's important and how it's distinct and different from the what and how of business. Tap into the power of articulating the why for your organization. Hi, this is Dr. Karen Wilson Starks, President and CEO of Trans Leadership Incorporated. Did you know that workplaces can make a significant difference in the lives of people and that you can create a positive culture that gets positive business results and also produces positive life experiences for your employees and your clients and customers? You can make a significant contribution to the world by creating the kind of culture where your people can bring their gifts to provide the most relevant and excellent products and services to your marketplace. What the research shows is that companies with excellent leadership are also more profitable. So, as you flourish and as you grow in the world, you can do more for yourself as well as for others. So, if this is resonating with you and you want to create a positive, profitable, and powerful corporate culture, and you care about succession, leaving the organization in a better position than when you found it, do keep in mind that that kind of legacy is something that's intentional. And I am happy to partner with you to take your organization to the next level and create that positive leadership culture. So reach me at Dr. Karen, Karen, at transleadership.com. Today, I'm really excited about our topic, which is 5 steps for building high performance teams. So let's get started. Number one, the team has to understand its purpose and its reason for being. And if you haven't listened to the podcast episode about the power of articulating the why, be sure to listen to that because it is relevant. If a team doesn't know its purpose, its reason for being, it really can't do its best work. So that's number one. Number two, the team has to select the right people. In other words, you want people who are individually talented at the highest levels for their signature gift and strength that they are bringing to the team. And I refer back to the podcast where I'm talking about Tiger Woods and the President's Cup because each one of those players was individually talented at the highest level, even to be a part of the President's Cup team. So that's number two. Number three is the ability to work together with great synergy. And I want to mention a couple of team points. When you're working together with great synergy, you're going to have some team norms. How do we operate? What do we do as a group? How do we treat one another? How do we communicate? Are all part of that team norms. Secondly, high performance teams, when they're working together, they give each other feedback and they have constructive ways of handling conflict. They become conflict competent. And the third subpoint is they learn together on a regular basis. They create a learning culture to include conducting after action reviews to extend their learning even further. So, number three is that ability to work together with those subpoints. And number four, high performance teams have to know how to work with partners. Sometimes you're doing something that's big enough that it takes more input than what your team has authority over by itself. So you may have to engage with other individuals or other teams to create win win options. And number five is to celebrate and reward success so that you are, in essence, regaining the momentum and the drive to turn around and be successful again. So, those are the 5 steps for building high performance teams that are effective. And we have actually created an online Teams course that actually shows you how to put those 5 steps in action. As I've said in other places before, it's high performance teams that do the bulk of the work in organizations. So if you figure out how to launch and develop high performance teams, you will be able to do more of the work that your organization is called to do. So, one benefit of actually getting this online course is that you and your team can do more of the work that you're called to do. You also will be able to break down silos and walls and fiefdoms in your organization to be able to see over those walls and see what the new opportunities are. And as you are seeing those new opportunities, you're going to stop waste. You're going to minimize the unnecessary errors that occur. Sometimes organizations repeat the same errors over and over again because they have failed to learn a lesson. Now, some errors, because you're moving in a new territory, you've never done something before, it's uncharted water. Some mistakes are necessary for discovery. But once you've discovered something, there's no need to make that mistake again. When you understand how to launch and develop a high performance team, then you can stop the unnecessary waste. Also, you can inspire people to their best efforts and maximize that individual as well as the collective work. You also create alignment of people, of resources, and become much more efficient and effective in what you're doing. And the bottom line is when you're running full throttle on all cylinders, you create competitive advantage and become a best place to work. So, the Teams course that we've created is called Teams Empowered for Dynamic Organizational Results. There are 5 modules to the course. The first one is called the Who, What, Why of High Performance Teams. Gives you the definitions, when to use them, what they're for. Number 2 is Form the Team. How do you bring that team together, including selecting the people? Number 3, Create the Team Communication Culture. Everything that team needs to know in order to communicate effectively, including the conflict competence piece. And number 4, identify potential partners and also roadblocks to your success. And how do you scale those? And then 5, celebrate team success and well. The course also includes some bonus content, top 7 mistakes that people make in launching and developing high performance teams, and the top 7 success factors. And what I really love about what we've created is that this is an evergreen course, meaning that periodically we're going to be adding bonus modules that those who have the course will be able to participate in live with me on a call where there'll be Q&A sessions. We'll talk about special topics and subjects on high performance teams. So you'll have an opportunity for those bonus modules. And we'll also do some periodic fireside chats where we answer your questions and so on. So this is a video course. Everything's videoed. You'll be able to look at it. It comes with assignments for each module so that you can take the content and do the exercises and apply it to your organization and take your organization to the next level. And each module also has note-taking guides. So this course is designed to be practical, standalone, meaning you can follow it, do the exercises on your own, and implement it in your organization. Or if you'd prefer to have consultation help from me, then you can also talk about that as well. The content in this course is based on tools that we use regularly with our real clients. So we know that it works. It's road tested, in other words. So who is this for? This course is for you, the business leader, if you are responsible for launching and developing high performance teams throughout your organization. So you might want to purchase it for your organization. It's also for you as the team leader because you can use this course as a roadmap to really build your team in the most effective way and to run and operate it in the most effective way. And it's also for you as a team member so that you can be more effective and more skilled yourself as being a team member and also bringing knowledge and expertise to the team that the team can use. So I want you to just note that we are launching this now, and I invite you to go to my website, which is transleadership.com. Go to the resources section, and you will see a place for teams empowered for dynamic organizational results. So do go to the website today, check it out, and if you have a business at all or you're in a business, then launching and developing high performance teams is important. So get the Teams course now. And if you have any questions, please write me a note, let me know, and I'll be glad to answer those for you. And in the meantime, launch and develop your teams that are empowered for dynamic organizational results. And I wish you great success in this year. Most organizations and employers really understand the need and the importance of customer experience. Fewer employers and organizations really understand the importance of employee experience. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Employee experience is something you want to understand. You want to benefit from your employees' observations and perceptions about what life is like for them in your organization and what their employment feels like. Now, keep in mind, your employees are your first customers. And when you increase their emotional connection to the company and increase their experience, they then increase the customer experience. So, in other words, give your employees a taste of this experience dimension that you want your customers to have, and they in turn will pass it on to the customers. Now, the corollary to that is that if you don't give them that experience, then what they pass on to the customer is a negative experience. Now, according to Jacob Morgan, who's the author of The Employee Experience Advantage, when you focus on employee experience as an organization, you will have 4 times higher profits, 40% less turnover, and 24% less headcount. Now imagine that. You could actually have fewer people get more done and have those people want to stay and not leave or feel overwhelmed and overworked and be more profitable at the same time, just because of the experience that you're dialing in for those employees. A focus on that employee experience recognizes the power of people wanting to work more so than people just needing to work. So you want to think about how you can redesign the organization with the employees at the center. And so there are several areas of focus that we can look at. One area is what we'll call culture. And under culture, we have things like having work that is meaningful, having a sense of purpose about why you're there, what it is that you're doing, creating that positive and affirmative work environment, the environment that energizes people rather than drains them. And this is one that I talk about frequently because when I'm with my clients, I find that this is the one that is violated the most often. So frequently, people are in a negative environment where errors and mistakes are constantly pointed out, and they're not getting the feedback about what's going well or what's going right in the workplace. Another part of culture is providing growth opportunities. People want to grow, people want to learn, they want to experience something new, occasionally get new skills, and that also means having a supportive and trusted leadership around them so that they get the coaching, the mentoring, and the development that they're looking for. There are also what I'm going to refer to as some quality of life aspects of the culture. In other words, people like to work for an organization that they can be proud of. So maybe you actually have a program or an approach where your employees get a certain number of hours where they can do volunteer work in the community. That's energizing for many people to have that opportunity, and it makes you a best place to work. Other people might want to have time in the workplace to work on an individual or special project that's related to work. They're doing work for you. However, they get a chance to specify the nature of that work and to add value in a way that they choose or that's unique to them. Similarly, people really do value in today's world anything that you can do that enhances their life balance. So that might mean flexible work hours. It could mean more vacation time. It could be other ways to give time off. So all of those I would put in this culture bucket that you are creating and that leads to a quality of life. The second area I would look at would be just tools for productivity. What do your employees need? Would they find valuable in terms of what would make them more productive, having the right resources in the workplace? It could be that it might be some virtual platforms so they could work remotely, some mobile tools, certain kinds of equipment, different technology solutions. The bottom line is your people want the right tools for the job. In other words, if you want them to chop down trees, they don't want you to give them a Boy Scout knife. They need a chainsaw for that. So making sure that what you're providing is the tool that's going to be most efficient, most effective, and lead to the least amount of frustration. Now, some of those tools are not only for the exact detail of the work, but may also be for the collaboration that's necessary so people can work together with others, including others who are in a remote site. And in the spirit of balance, some of those tools might even be related to fitness, even having fitness apps, because we find that more fit leaders are also more productive leaders. And then this leads to the third bucket, which I'll refer to as the workspace. Having decor that is interesting or relaxing to the employee or that's inspiring to the employee. Having healthy food options, a dining room space that's inviting, perhaps providing balconies or patios or gardens and hiking trails or fountains in your work environment, or a gym where they can get those extra steps in during a lunch break, or lounges where people can take a break and relax. Having offices and meeting rooms with windows and natural light, a building that has collaborative meeting spaces where you can go to some place that's not exactly your office, but you have lots of options to meet with people in conference rooms or more creative spaces that bring people together. In general, just having some space flexibility. Success with employee experience really comes from being intentional. These environments are built, they don't just evolve. And in order for them to be successful, you have to be holistic. In other words, we've often talked about culture before in other settings. It's not just looking only at culture, however. You want to look at culture, you want to look at rewards, the learning environment, engagement, physical conditions, emotional, professional, financial well being. You're creating a well being environment that's humanistically oriented, if you will. So, some tools along the way that you might use for that. One tool is actually to get feedback on an ongoing and regular basis from your employees. In other words, that once or twice a year employee satisfaction survey is not enough. You regularly have to be listening and regularly taking the pulse of the organization from some pulse feedback that you're just putting out the feelers on a regular basis to see what people are talking about, what they're saying, and what they're thinking about. And as you listen, be thinking about what you could co create together And then don't just listen, go out and implement it and do something. And so, one of the other tools that helps in this is to have a design thinking mind. And that's a mind that desires to simplify work and increase productivity and performance. A mindset that looks for new delivery models and ways of doing things. What can you design that you may not have been thinking about that the employee is interested in and that will work? And the same way that you can use a net promoter score for the customer side, you can even get feedback from an employee net promoter score. Let them rate you. To what extent would they recommend the company and the business they work for to their friends and family, either for employment and or for doing business with you? And imagine if you work someplace and you wouldn't recommend it to someone, that says a lot. So, this focus on employee experience also increases employee engagement. And so often in workplaces today, the focus is on engagement alone, and that's not enough. It's really hard to get to engagement without first focusing on the employee experience. And in that case, engagement becomes an outcome or a byproduct of having the right experiences in the workplace. So here's what I would say: any choice that you make that's for your employees is also a choice for your long term business success. Hi, this is Dr. Karen, dropping into today's show to remind you that one of the most important roles of an executive leader is to quickly make big and right decisions for the business. Are you looking for an experienced and trusted advisor to come alongside you as a thinking partner as you make those decisions? Then contact me at Dr. Karen, Karen at transleadership.com. Now, back to the show. For those of you who are married, or who have been married, or who are even currently in the dating scene, I want you to think back and remember what it was like as you were dating and who you were attracted to. Very frequently, we are attracted to people who have some quality that is in some way opposite of what we are like and who we are. So one person may be quiet, the next person is outgoing, one person may be funny, the other one is serious. Somebody may be enterprising and more entrepreneurial, the other person may be more cautious or more conservative. Now, prior to marriage, you see the value of this oppositeness. It's exciting. You're attracted to it like a moth to the flame. It's really a wonderful thing. And then after marriage, often there's this sense of annoyance. Why can't they be more like me? And the reality is, the problem is, if they were more like you, then both of you collectively would have the same blind spot. There's a real value and advantage to your partner being different from you, different in skills, different in abilities, possibly different in temperament. Where you want to be similar is in values and what's important to you going forward. And so, with the difference, you want to learn to appreciate and leverage that difference. I remember my husband and I, when we were living in Germany, we had to go to a lot of military balls. And my husband is a quiet, introverted type. So at those military balls, he would sit back and he would observe the action and figure out what was going on from silent observation. In my case, I'm much more of an extrovert and an interactive person. So at the military ball, I would dance with all of the important people and I would interact with them and talk to them and find out what was going on. And then when we would get home at night, we would compare notes. And because of my husband's very strong powers of observation, He would see things that I would never have picked up on and wouldn't have paid attention to, and they were very relevant. And because of my strong ability to interact and talk with people, I would discover information that was important and relevant that he never would have found out. And by putting both pieces together, we had a fuller picture of what we needed to know. Also, while we were living in Germany, we often would attend some social functions that were held in the homes of American people who lived on the German economy and they had been in Germany for many years. So all of the guests at these functions were German, and that was the language that was spoken. My husband grew up in Germany, so he understood German, although he was not a great fan of speaking German. I was just learning to speak German. I could speak better than my husband. However, I did not have the same ability to hear other people and to comprehend. So, as a team, he would listen to what people said and translate to me and tell me what they said. And then I would answer back in German. And that's how we used our two different skills synergistically in that setting and at that time. So when I think about my team at work right now, I have many team members and they have very different talents and skills from me. They're able to do things that I'm not good at. They're able to do things that need to be done for the business and even activities and skills that I don't like doing. And thank God for them that they have these different ideas, they have these different abilities, and that collectively we get to learn from each other. So the bottom line is this: you are better together. And especially when being together means you're bringing the diversity of your different minds in service of the innovation that's necessary and needed in today's business world, because we are in a complex world that requires diverse minds for the best solution. In the words of Maya Angelou, I would say that in diversity, there is beauty and strength. And so here's your homework assignment. I want you at work to find someone who's different from you and to learn from them and to appreciate them and then to identify what you can do together, bringing your diverse set of skills, abilities, talents, strengths, and insights. Dr. Clarence Schuler is the president and CEO of Building Lasting Relationships, and his wife, Brenda Schuler, the two of them together won Speakers of the Year for the Family Life Marriage Conferences. They know a lot about marriage, as at the time of this recording, they've been married for almost 40 years. So I have Dr. Clarence Schuler with me today. Dr. Schuler, what's the word on marriage? What would you like to tell people?
Well, Karen, thanks so much for this introduction. I would like to tell them that our nonprofit, Building Lasting Relationships, we actually get wounded people in God's word into wounded people, primarily by memorizing scripture. Then we heal them, equip them, and empower them to become reproductive disciples who do the same for others. And one of those venues that we do is use marriage. And we've done marriage ministry all around the globe. And we refer people to our resource, which is Keeping Your Wife Your Best Friend, which is written for husbands, but also their wives, so they can go through the book together. There are questions in the back. So whether they have a tune-up, their marriage is in crisis, we really feel this resource can change their life forever, and they can actually use it to help change other people's lives. So we love marriage. We think marriage is designed to be for a lifetime. And no matter where your marriage is, there's hope for your marriage. It can be better than it's ever been if you just put some work into it. So we love marriages, and I know marriages put a smile on God's face.
Well, amen to that. And if you keep your wife your best friend, I think you have an even greater chance of being married for the long haul. So if you would like to know more about the ministry, please go to clarenceschuler.com and you can give a donation there or you can sign up for a marriage experience yourself. In organizations today, leaders have to take on a number of different roles to develop the people around them. One of the roles is being a coach, and we've talked about that before. When you're a coach, you're really working on the coachee's agenda and you're asking lots of open ended questions. And the objective is to help that coachee to really come up with their own solutions. Now, there's another role that you can also play in the organization, and that's the role of a mentor. When you are a mentor, you usually have some additional knowledge, experience, expertise, or even relationships that are important for the mentoree to be exposed to. So you're not just coaching that person on their agenda, you're also showing them some areas to pursue, some things to think about that maybe they don't already know just yet. And so the beauty of this mentoring piece is that while you're bringing that value, you can also use some coaching approaches in order to get that done. So, here are just a few thoughts and tips about the coaching process. Number one, you really want to focus on the whole person, not just who the person is at work. What do they see as their calling? What do they see as their purpose in life? What are the gifts, the talents, and strengths that they bring? What else is important to them outside of work? Where are they operating? What are they doing? Get to know that mentoree at a deep level. So that's one thing. Think about the whole person, not just someone who's learning a skill or who's stepping into a specific or particular job. Number two, keep in mind that as the Bible talks about the concept of iron sharpens iron, the mentoring process is a two-way street of reciprocal learning. One of the reasons that mentors don't mind being mentors is they get as much out of the experience as the one who's being mentored. So when you come to the table as a mentor, you're asking yourself, what is it that I have to give? And hopefully you have your ears open and you're listening to figure out also, what can I learn from this person who may be more junior to me in the organization and who may have less experience? However, they have some perspectives and they have some life experiences different from mine, and I can also learn from them. So be open to reciprocal learning. And number three, remember, there's a phrase that I used in my book, Lead Yourself First, the Senior Leader's Guide to Engaging Your People for Greater Performance and Impact. And that phrase is, you are the instrument of your leadership. So if you think about that, if you're the mentor, you yourself, you as a person, and how you show up is an integral part of the leadership equation. Every day, if you think about yourself as the instrument, you could be a piano, you could be a saxophone, you could be a scalpel in the surgeon's hands. You are some kind of instrument who is shaping and who is refining the world of leadership around you. And you're using yourself as that instrument, even as you are growing the person who is being mentored. Likewise, that mentoree, they are also an instrument of their leadership. So you're helping that person to tune up and to prepare for the music that they are uniquely qualified to play in the organization. So that's number three. You are the instrument of your leadership. And then number four, you want to support risk taking and stretching beyond the comfort zone. And the mentoree would be willing to take a risk or to stretch, knowing that there is that safety net there. So, as the mentor, you represent the safety net. They can go out, they can conduct experiments, they can do something new, and they have someone to come back and to talk to about it. which leads to number 5, which is reflection and being able to process through any mistakes along the way so that the mentoree is mining the learning from those mistakes. Mistakes in and of themselves are not a problem. There are some mistakes that are necessary because you're going into new areas, uncharted territory, and maybe nobody knows how to operate in that space. And the mistake will teach you a little bit about what works, what doesn't work, and what might work better. So, if you are called to be a mentor, remember you have something to give and you have something to receive in that relationship. You want to focus on the whole person of your mentoree. You want to be willing to learn as well as to instruct. You want to see yourself as an instrument of leadership and see them as their own instrument of leadership. You want to support risk taking, stretching, getting out of the comfort zone, and be a safe place for your mentoree to reflect and process the lessons of mistakes that occur. So, this is a wonderful role in the workplace. And in today's environment, with the younger people who are coming along, what they crave most is someone who cares at this level about their development. So, as a mentor, you can make a difference. As an executive business leader, you have many difficult decisions to make every single day. And it's important to think about, how do you develop your people? How do you launch and develop high performance teams? And how do you create a culture that wins every time? If you would like to take a look at your organization and to talk about the wisdom and guidance that would propel you to create a best place to work and also competitive advantage, then I invite you to apply for a consultation to work with me. Go to my website, www.transleadership.com, go to the services page, and under organizational consultation, you will see a tab that says Contact Us. That's where you request a consultation. So if you are an executive business leader in a medium to large size company, then I look forward to receiving your application and having a conversation with you. Companies have to do a very important and delicate balancing act between profitability and also growth. So let me start with profitability. When we're talking about profitability, we're really looking at net profit after your expenses have been paid. So you've paid the expenses, what it costs to manufacture your product, the production cost, the sales cost, all of that. And then you have this amount left over that's profit to the business. And owners can choose to either keep that profit or they can reinvest it back into the business for continued operations and growth. Now, outside of some exceptions, let's say for some startup organizations who are going to be more profitable, let's say in the future, but maybe right now, they may not be so profitable, but they have profitability potential. Aside from those exceptions, businesses who are not profitable are not businesses. They're going to disappear. You have to have that side of the equation in place. In other words, you're here to produce a product or to provide a service, and it's got to be something that also brings you some income at the same time. Now, as you're analyzing your business, you want to pay attention to, what are those products and what are those services that are creating that profitability? And you're always having to analyze that so that you want to build some support around the things and the items that are the most profitable and figure out how you can do more of that. And sometimes there's some products you may be offering or services you may be offering that you want to get rid of because these are low producers. Maybe if there's a certain kind of cookie on your grocery shelf and nobody ever buys it, it's taking up real estate. that could be used by another product that's never got enough space and it's always sold out. You're air conditioning a building, you're heating a building for something that nobody wants. So you're always looking to say, what are the profitable things? What do we keep? And what's eroding profitability? And what do we need to get rid of? Once you have what I'll say the plate spinning about what's working well for you, and you know that the business is profitable, now you want to think about what are the growth opportunities? Because businesses are really like living organisms, they don't remain static. If there's no growth, then your business is dying or atrophying in some way. At the same time, your growth has to be strategic in order to really benefit you. And so you want to be thinking about what resources is it going to take for us to take advantage of a particular market opportunity. Let's say you're growing because you're increasing sales of a particular item that you already sell, or maybe you're increasing market share. It's the same item, but you're selling it to a greater number of people. Or you might be growing because you're producing new products or new services, or you're moving into some new markets. All of that growth requires resources in the company in terms of personnel, in terms of finances, in terms of time and energy that's actually focused on those new directions. And I find that sometimes the error that a business makes is that they're growing so fast. That's when they've outgrown that infrastructure that we've talked about before, or outgrown the foundation, and they find themselves in a position where they can't keep up. They may not have the right resources in place for the bigger business that they're building. So you want to grow in a way that keeps pace with the resources that you have to continue to be successful. It's really creating a stretch out there and at the same time, not stretching so far that you fall off a limb. So this can mean bringing in the right people. It can mean opportunities even for them to have new career paths and new succession planning and everything else because there are new opportunities in the company. I find that so often when businesses are trying to decide where they are with this profitability and growth balancing act, they will look at the hard numbers, but they forget to assess the people part or the leadership bandwidth. If we really take on these new products and services, how is that going to stretch us on the leadership end and asking the right questions? Do we have the right foundation? Will our growth help us or will it be a liability? And what are the supports we need to put in place to keep the balance in the right space between profitability and growth? So, if this is something you're thinking about, and if you perhaps believe that you might have even outgrown your current foundation or infrastructure, and you'd like to talk about what else needs to be dialed in so that you continue to be the successful business that you've been in the past and that you even go beyond where you were before, then give me a call and we can talk about your unique circumstances and situation. So, to your success, to your profitability, and to your growth. Hi, this is Dr. Karen, and today I'm here with Terrence Chapman, who is the president and CEO of Victorious Family and also the author of Do Your Children Believe? Victorious Family has a goal of reaching 9.2 million families by 2030. Terrence, tell us how far along are you on that goal?
Well, we're very excited. Last year, for example, we reached 133,800 families. And prior to that, so we're right on around the 400,000 family mark towards our 9.2 million goal in the second year, really in a year and a half. So we're extremely excited.
That is very, very exciting news. And I know that it's many new initiatives that help you to reach even more families. So tell us what's new in the ministry.
You know, what's exciting in December 7th of 2023, We had a national newspaper cover Victoria's Family, and it went throughout the country. And that has exposed us to over 30 million families in the US. From that, we've got a great deal of responses. And one of those responses is a new partnership that we're forming with Hampton University to come alongside of them and work in 8 counties in the Hampton Roads area. So we're real excited about that. Millions of families will be exposed to what does it look like to have family transformation taking place in their home.
That's phenomenal. So, how can people reach you and how can they reach your weekly resource that you have as well?
Well, they can reach us at victoriousfamily.org, victoriousfamily.org. Our resources are there, and we're excited because we have a brand new resource that just came out. It's our weekly rhythms guide. It really gives the parent and individual kind of a day-to-day rhythm and how they might walk in Christ. And so we really would encourage that they get a copy of our weekly rhythms guide for parents and individuals.
Thank you so much, Terrence. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And to you out there in the audience, please go to victoriousfamily.org, donate to the ministry, get the weekly rhythms guide, and see what else is new in the ministry. See you next time. Thank you for listening to The Voice of Leadership with me, Dr. Karen Wilson Starks. I am also your concierge executive leadership advisor for when you need to make tough business decisions, facilitate executive succession and transition, develop your executive team, lead change, create a positive and profitable culture, or leverage marketplace creative advantage. You can reach me at Dr. Karen, Karen, at transleadership.com. Also go to my website, transleadership.com, for more leadership resources and insights. I want to give special thanks to Ron McMillan, gospel jazz saxophonist and national Billboard recording artist, also known as Mr. Sirius XM Jazz Watercolors, for allowing us to use his gifted music on our show. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.